Welcome back to the Explainer. So, if you're a parrot parent, you already know that when the temperature drops, keeping our feathered friends comfortable becomes a massive priority. But here's the thing you might not know. The very things we humans use to stay toasty warm in the winter, they can actually be deadly to our birds. Today, we're taking a deep dive into cold weather management for parrots. We're going to explore exactly how they naturally fight the cold, uncover some seriously hidden hazards lurking in your home right now, and go over exactly how to winterize your bird's environment completely safely. Let's jump right in. Here's our roadmap for today. First, how parrots fight the cold. Second, the hidden danger of drafts. Third, the deadly threat of Teflon. Fourth, safe heating for your parrot. And finally, managing the winter environment. Okay, let's get into it. Section 1, how parrots fight the cold. Because parrots evolved mostly in tropical and subtropical climates, their ideal thermoneutral zone, that sweet spot where they don't have to burn any extra energy just to maintain their core body heat, is typically between 65 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, when the temperature drops below that, they use this incredible biological marvel called pitilloerection. You have absolutely seen your bird do this. It's when they look like a little puffed-up cotton ball. By fluffing their feathers out, they're actually increasing the volume of air trapped right against their skin. That trapped air acts as a highly effective insulating boundary layer to conserve their core heat. It's basically their own built-in, custom-fitted winter puffer jacket. But keep in mind, while that fluffing mechanism is universal, cold tolerances vary wildly by species. For example, an African gray might start getting genuinely uncomfortable around 60 degrees. But a macaw, being more tropical, they hit their critical cold threshold a bit higher, at 65 degrees. And your smaller birds, like cockatiels, they actually lose heat much faster just due to their tiny size, so they can get really stressed if it drops below 59 degrees. So knowing your specific bird's baseline is absolutely crucial here. Now, absolute temperature matters, for sure, but it actually isn't the biggest enemy. Let's transition to section 2, the hidden danger of drafts. The difference between completely still air and moving air is literally a matter of life and death for a bird. If a room is just a bit cold, but the air is totally still, your parrot's pillow erection trick works perfectly. That puffed-up feather coat successfully holds onto that warm, protective boundary layer. But in a drafty cold room, that moving air physically strips away the warmed air layer over and over again. Imagine wearing a warm winter coat, but someone keeps unzipping it every 5 seconds. The bird has to burn a massive amount of energy to reheat that layer continuously, which quickly leads to severe chilling, stress, and even respiratory distress. So how do you know if your bird is just relaxing or genuinely cold stressed? You've got to watch for these visual cues. If they're fluffed up for extended periods of time, hunched over, or heavily tucking their feet and beak deep into their feathers, they're working way too hard to conserve heat. If you actually see them shivering, which biologists call shivering thermogenesis, and it's a super energy expensive way to generate internal heat, or if they're acting unusually lethargic, their environment has definitely shifted from comfortable to stressful. That's your cue to intervene. Which brings us to the really dark twist of this explainer. Section 3, the deadly threat of Teflon. We need to talk about this number right here. 536 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the critical threshold where polytetrafluoroethylene, which you probably know by the brand name Teflon, or PTFE, becomes incredibly dangerous. When PTFE is heated to 536 degrees, it undergoes a process called pyrolysis. Basically, it breaks down and releases highly toxic, completely invisible, and totally odorless gases. You might be wondering, what does this have to do with winter heating? Well, because PTFE is literally everywhere in our homes. A lot of standard everyday space heaters are actually coated in Teflon just to prevent the heating elements from rusting while they sit in warehouses. It's also in self-cleaning ovens, which get insanely hot, nonstick cookware, your hairdryer, your iron, even some heat lamps. If a Teflon-coated space heater kicks on in a small room, or those fumes get pulled through your home's HVAC system, the results for a bird are catastrophic. It frequently causes fatal pulmonary edema. Now, what's really fascinating here is the biology of why birds are so exceptionally vulnerable to these specific fumes. Parrots possess a highly efficient unidirectional respiratory system. In humans like us, air goes in and out of the exact same sacs. But in birds, air flows continuously in one single direction. This allows them to extract oxygen incredibly fast to power flight. But that amazing evolutionary lung design means it also extracts toxic gases, like Teflon fumes, with deadly efficiency. A level of gas that might just give a human a mild headache can literally kill a parrot in minutes. Okay, I know that's super scary, but knowledge is power, right? Let's pivot to the solutions in Section 4, Safe Heating for Your Parrot. It all comes down to this one question. What is the absolute safest way to add supplemental ambient heat to your bird's environment without risking PTFE exposure or fire hazards? Enter the gold standard, universally recommended by avian experts, the oil-filled radiator. These units kind of look like those old-fashioned metal radiators, but you just plug them straight into the wall. They work by circulating heated oil through completely sealed metal fins to project heat smoothly and safely into the room. The benefits here are huge. Because the heating element is perfectly sealed inside that oil, there are no exposed glowing red-hot wires. And crucially, they generally do not use PTFE or Teflon coatings anywhere. They also heat the room smoothly without a fan, which means they aren't blowing dry, drafty air all over the place, and that helps retain much-needed winter humidity. But, and this is a massive rule, you absolutely must plug a brand new unit in outside, like in your garage for at least 24 hours. You have to safely burn off any non-toxic factory machining oils before you ever bring it near your bird. On the flip side, you want to avoid wood stoves, kerosene, and propane heaters. I know they feel super cozy to us, but incomplete combustion produces carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, and soot. Even if you think your home is well ventilated, that particulate matter is a severe irritant. In a worst-case scenario, it's totally lethal to a bird's highly sensitive respiratory tract. Just skip them. All right, we've got the heater situation sorted out. Let's expand our focus a bit for Section 5, Managing the Winter Environment. Let's see how all this builds into a really practical 4-step winter action plan. Step 1. Tackle the room itself. Seal up those window leaks and stop those sneaky heat-stealing drafts. Step 2, grab that PTFE-free oil-filled radiator we just talked about. Step 3, and I can't stress this enough, never skip that 24-hour burn-off period in the garage. And Step 4, add a cool mist humidifier. Winter heating destroys ambient moisture, and birds really need 40 to 50% humidity to keep their skin, feathers, and respiratory systems healthy. Oh, and here's a great pro tip. Dietary adjustment, officially known as calorific modulation. Remember that shivering thermogenesis we mentioned earlier? Well, that burns a ton of calories. In the colder months, giving your birds small, controlled amounts of high-lipid, healthy-fat foods like a piece of a walnut literally gives them the extra fuel they need to keep their own internal furnace running strong. I want to wrap up with this really empowering thought from one of our sources. You don't get rid of your dangerous-to-pets kitchen stove just because you have a bird. You, the responsible pet parent, supervise as needed. Bringing a parrot into your life means adapting your environment, for sure, but it doesn't mean you have to live in fear. By understanding their unique biology and making smart, proactive choices like opting for oil-filled heaters and banishing drafts, you can absolutely create a perfectly safe winter haven. So take a close look around your bird's room today. Where are those hidden drafts coming from, and is that old space heater secretly putting them at risk? The power to protect them is entirely in your hands. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer. What changes are you going to make to your bird's room today? Stay warm out there.